What is up, you guys, and welcome back to my channel. I posted on my Instagram story kind of what type of videos you guys want to see, so whether it is vlogs or kind of sit down videos, and the results were actually really like split, like half and half. I think like 46% was like actually sit down videos, so I figured we'll do both. We'll see how it goes. But in today's video, I did want to touch on reverse dieting and kind of what that is, what it means, how to kind of incorporate it, because it is the time of the year when the weather's getting colder. There's going to be more social events or centered mostly around food, with Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever kind of winter holiday you celebrate. Most of these are food centric. And I think now is an awesome time, and I typically recommend for my clients to kind of start incorporating somewhat of a reverse diet. That way we're not at, sub 100 grams of carbs when it's Thanksgiving dinner, like the next day. Now, this is always very case client dependent. If you have a goal to do a show, like a contest prep in March, maybe we don't reverse diet, like because we kind of have a goal that, March is 3 months into the new year. Prep typically needs to start around the holiday times, because longer preps are better, and maybe that's a whole different like YouTube video that we could film. So I'm not really going to touch on that right now, but today's video is going to be about reverse dieting, the ins and outs of that, how to execute it. So let's get into today's topic. For starters, we should just define reverse dieting, kind of what that is. So reverse dieting is pretty much what the name entails. You are reversing out of a diet, meaning we are bringing food back up. And that's pretty straightforward. That's what it is. If you are ending a dieting phase, and we could also make a YouTube video about when to end a dieting phase. But let's say carbs have gotten pretty low, you're really food focused, it's just not enjoyable anymore. That would be time to kind of call the diet and then enter into a reverse. Now, let's just give, straightforward examples, and it's going to be different. Like, I don't want to just say, oh, you ended a diet at 100 grams of carbs, we're going to start a reverse at 125. But pretty much you're just slightly bumping up food, maybe lowering cardio, kind of whatever kind of comes first. Typically, I will kind of do both at the same time. So we might make a slight jump in food and a slight decrease in cardio. The way that we typically want to approach a reverse, though, is to do so in a slow manner, so we're kind of mitigating the effects of adding more food, which is typically adding more food means that you're gaining weight or gaining fat. So by doing so slowly, we're giving your body and your metabolism time to adapt to this now higher intake. I guess we could kind of go into the science of what happens when you're dieting. So pretty much you want to start a diet. Let's say, again, we're just giving straightforward numbers, making sure that I'm not cutting my head off. We're just giving straightforward numbers. Let's say you are starting a diet at 2,000 calories. Let's say your metabolic rate is around 1,700, but you're able to maintain on 2,000 because of exercise and all that, NEAT and all that type of stuff. When you start dieting, that metabolic rate is going to come down regardless of what happens. Like, you could, eat all the protein you want, train really hard. Typically what happens in a dieting phase is that your metabolic rate is going to come down. So you're now at this lower metabolic rate because metabolism is adapted. It could go adaptive. It could go both ways. You'll lower your metabolism when you're dieting, and then you could kind of increase it when you're reversing. So we have now kind of suppressed metabolic rate. What needs to happen is we need to increase it. But we're not going to do that by just throwing 100 grams of carbs at you. That's going to run the risk of gaining unwanted body fat. We kind of have to increase not only metabolic rate and food, but also muscle mass, because muscle mass does tend to decrease when you are dieting as well. And a lot of the time metabolic rate and hormones don't necessarily catch up until you kind of regain the muscle that you lost. So that is why we reverse diet. We want to add in more food, gain the muscle back that we lost, potentially even more, and build back metabolic rate. So we're able to get to that more, realistic calorie intake, because you don't want to, let's say you diet down to 1,200 calories. You don't want to stay there with the rest of your life. Like, you don't want to eat like a toddler the rest of your life. So we do want to kind of build food up, get to a higher level. That's going to be different for everyone. Typically, I say kind of when either weight continues to increase, and that's kind of like your body saying like, yo, I've had enough, or you're just stuffed and you can't eat anymore. So here are some tips on how to effectively reverse diet. For one, don't stick to the same foods that you're eating in that dieting phase. If you are having cauliflower rice, if you are having oats with zucchini, whatever it may be, whatever voluminous food you are having, don't continue eating that as calories increase. Now, in the beginning, you may need to have that because hunger is still going to kind of be thrown off with kind of leptin and ghrelin kind of being all over the place. But once calories get to a higher place, stop kind of navigating towards those, stop drifting towards those kind of lower calorie options, because those lower calorie options are going to be higher in fiber as well. Foods that are higher in fiber are going to be slower digesting, and they're going to kind of just going to sit in your gut. And when you're really trying to increase food, having things that are slower digesting can kind of make that process harder, because you may find that, hey, I'm not hungry. Like, I can't even think about eating, let's say it's someone who ended their diet at 80 grams of carbs. Now we got to 150 grams of carbs and they're like, hey, like, Danielle, I'm stuffed. Like, I can't even think about eating anymore. But they're still having their iceberg lettuce. They're still having their cauliflower rice, their oats with zucchini. All those foods, iceberg lettuce is pretty quick digesting, but all those foods are kind of high volume foods. So those high volume foods will kind of sit in your gut, and then it kind of makes you not want to eat anymore. This is now the time to kind of shift to white rice, white pasta, like those quick digesting carbs, especially during your workout, are going to be very, very beneficial. I'm not saying have a big bowl of white pasta and then go to bed, but if you're able to center those carbs, even Gatorade, Interformance, whatever it may be, having some carbs during your workout, really making sure that we're having those quick digesting carbs in the right times can really make this process easier and allow for, increased performance, increased muscle mass, which is what we all want out of a reverse dieting phase. Typically, after reversing, we need to kind of gain back, or after dieting, we need to gain back the muscle that we lost. In order to do that, we need to make sure that we are properly fueling, we're properly recovering, all of those things, and carbs can really help make that happen. And I want to say that is probably the biggest kind of tip that I have, because a lot of people struggle with kind of, I can't even think about eating any more food. I don't know what carbs to eat. Oh, tip number 2, I just thought of one. Tip number 2, if you're struggling with what to eat because food is getting higher, a really, really easy one, and because typically when we reverse, it's not like we're adding fats and carbs at the same time. Fats will kind of come up gradually. Carbs are typically increase a little quicker. So easy things that are just purely carbs: white rice, white pasta, fruit is such an easy one. I mean, I could have like 300, 400 grams of watermelon and like not even feel full. And that's probably 30 grams of carbs right there. So really adding in fruit, not only is it like full of micronutrients, but it's typically like very easy to eat because fruit is sweet. It kind of satisfies that sweet tooth. Another great one is drinking your calories. Now, I'm not saying like go have a soda, but during your workout, if you're able to have half a Gatorade, that will really help get carbs in too, and it will help with performance because you get the electrolytes from the Gatorade, get some carbs. Both of those are good things, especially when we're training. So that will be tip number 2 on kind of how to reverse. And then I would think my last tip would be, don't get very hung up on the scale. Now, yes, it would be great if everyone could lose weight while they're reversing, or if everyone could kind of maintain their weight while reversing. That's not always the case. Yes, maybe you will continue to lose weight during those first few months of during those first few weeks of reversing, but it may get to the point where weight kind of stalls and it stays there, or maybe it starts trending upward. Don't think that you're doing it wrong. Don't think that the reverse isn't working for you anymore. It's still working. It just is kind of a part of the process. We don't really necessarily know the in-depth science of why we're able to lose weight, why some people gain weight right away. Like, there's no real set in stone answer. Again, I touched on this kind of in the last few clips. It could be kind of inflammation went down, cortisol went down, we're able to train harder, we're recovering better, whatever it may be. It's going to be different for everyone, but really don't get hung up on the scale and what the number says. The purpose of a reverse is to get food back up, get metabolism back up, get to the point where we're able to kind of maintain at a higher level. That way, maybe we maintain at a higher level and we're happy with that body composition and we're happy with the food that we're eating and we can kind of just stay there, or at least maintain to a higher level, stay there for a little bit, and then we could go through that next dieting cycle where we're actively trying to kind of change our body weight set point and all those things that kind of happen with a reverse diet, reverse cycle. So those would be my tips. But like I said, if you found value in this video, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will talk to you guys next time.